Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
James felt disoriented as he slowly regained consciousness. The first thing that registered was the warmth caressing his skin, much different from the cold, metallic environment of his starship. He opened his eyes to a spectacle that was both enchanting and alarming. Above him, the sky shimmered in hues of violet and emerald, dotted with two glowing suns. He sat up abruptly, startled by the vibrant flora surrounding him, gigantic, twisting plants with luminescent flowers swaying gently, as if greeting him. As he took a deep breath, an intoxicating scent filled his lungs, sweet, like fruit, yet spicy, tinged with a hint of something exotic. The air was thick and moist, and he could hear distant echoes of alien creatures calling to one another. His heart raced as fragments of memories flooded back, the unexpected wormhole, his ship being pulled off course, and the blinding light that ensued before he lost consciousness. Glancing around, he noticed that he was not alone. Just a few feet away stood a figure that made his pulse quicken for entirely different reasons. She was tall and imposing, with skin the color of deep sea blue, marked with swirling patterns that glowed faintly in the dim light of the suns. Her thick, dark hair cascaded past her shoulders, wild and untamed. She wore minimal clothing that accentuated her muscular frame, a strange blend of practicality and artistry. The alien girl's fierce green eyes locked onto his, and he felt a rush of adrenaline. In an instant, instinct took over, and he scrambled backward. "Wait! I'm not here to hurt you," he called out, raising his hands in a placating gesture. "Who are you, human?" she demanded, her voice a low, melodic growl, yet filled with authority. "James," he managed to reply, noticing how even his voice seemed weak compared to her commanding presence. I crashed here. I need to." "Crashed?" she interrupted, taking a step closer, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. "You invade my territory, and you think you'll simply leave?" James's mind raced. He could sense her anger and distress swirled around them, almost tangible. "No. I didn't mean to. I don't want any trouble. I just need to find my ship." Fear pricked at his heart as he observed her stance, poised and ready as if prepared to attack. For a moment, they stood in silence, locked in a stare down. He studied her features closely, noticing the way her body tensed. She was a warrior, perhaps a protector of this land. Behind her defiance, he detected something deeper, a flicker of curiosity. She took another step forward. "You will come with me. We will see if you are lying." Before he could protest, she reached out and grabbed his arm with surprising strength, lifting him easily to his feet. Despite his fear, he felt a strange thrill at the closeness of her grasp, a mix of danger and allure that both excited and terrified him. "I'm not a threat," he reassured her, his voice more confident than he felt. "I just want to learn about this place." Her expression softened momentarily, as if she were weighing his words. "I will decide what you are after you've proven yourself. Follow me, James." With no choice but to listen, he followed her deeper into the dense jungle, the vibrant colors and strange sounds wrapping around him like a vivid dream, one that he hoped wouldn't turn into a nightmare. As James followed Valentina through the thick foliage, the air grew more humid, each breath becoming heavier with scents he couldn't place. He stole glances at her as she moved gracefully ahead, navigating the undergrowth with an agility that felt almost inhuman. Despite her fierceness, there was a mesmerizing quality to her movements, like an instinctual dance fused with purpose. "Where are we going?" James asked, trying to break the tension that hung thick between them. "To my village," Valentina replied without looking back. "You will meet my people. If you are truthful, they may help you." "Right, the village," he muttered. "Am I supposed to understand that I'm just some guest in your territory now?" He tried to keep his tone light, but the underlying tension made it difficult. "Respect is earned, human," she shot back, her voice low but firm. "Do not mistake my hospitality for weakness. The moment you threat us, I will act accordingly." James glanced away, uneasy. His mind raced with questions. Who were her people? What would they think of him? But more pressing was the realization that he had no idea how to navigate this unfamiliar world or its inhabitants. As they walked, the sounds of the jungle shifted. The echo of distant drums reverberated through the air, accompanied by the haunting melodies of flutes and chants. The village must have been nearby. Down a steep ridge, the canopy opened up to reveal a clearing illuminated by the dual suns, where a collection of huts weaved from the very vegetation surrounding them stood proudly. "Welcome to Narak," Valentina gestured broadly as they entered, her voice softening slightly. "This is where I was raised. It is a sacred place." James looked around in awe. The architecture was unlike anything he had ever seen, mounds of earth shaped by nature and each other, intertwined with vines that glowed in hues of green and blue. Inhabitants bustled about with a purpose, many of whom shared Valentina's striking features but displayed various shades of skin tones and markings. "Oh! Wow," he breathed. "This is incredible." "Do not be a fool," Valentina warned, casting a glance at him. "The beauty of Narak masks its dangers." As they made their way through the village, curiosity piqued among the villagers. Whispers and side glances followed, a mixture of intrigue and caution. Valentina led him through the winding paths until they reached a larger hut, festooned with colorful banners. "Stay close," she instructed, and without waiting for a reply, she entered the hut. Inside, the atmosphere transformed. The air was laden with the scent of spices and incense, bathing the space in warmth. Various objects adorned the walls, a tapestry of their myths, tools of craftsmanship, and what appeared to be trophies from hunts. In the center, an elder, hunched with age but sharp in demeanor, awaited them. "Valentina," the elder said, his voice low and commanding. "What brings you back with a human?" "I found him injured near the cliffs, Eldrick," Valentina responded, her posture shifting from defensive to respectful. "He claims he means us no harm, but he is a stranger in our lands." Eldrick's gaze shifted to James, evaluating him with piercing eyes. "You have trespassed, human. Your presence could bring danger. Tell me, why were you on our world?" "I was on a routine expedition," James began, though uncertainty dripped from his words. "My ship, there was an anomaly in space, and I crashed here. I swear I only want to understand this planet and its people." A murmur rippled through the gathered villagers as they took in his explanation. But Eldrick was unmoved, assessing him with a scrutinizing gaze. "What do you know of our culture? Of our customs?" "I don't know much, but I'm willing to learn," he replied earnestly. "I respect your way of life. I don't want to impose on anyone." "You expect respect?" Eldrick challenged, raising an eyebrow. "You have not earned it yet, nor can you if you do not understand our ways." Valentina stepped forward, her voice clear beside him. "Eldrick, perhaps he can be tested. If he passes, he can stay, if not." Her voice trailed off, the threat veiled but palpable. Eldrick nodded slowly, weighing her suggestion. "Very well, James. If you wish to stay, you must complete the rite of understanding. It will test your strength, knowledge, and heart." "What does that involve?" James asked, a mix of excitement and trepidation bubbling within him. "The rite is a series of challenges: physical combat, knowledge of our lore, and understanding our principles. Succeed, and you will gain the trust of the Narak people. Fail, and you will be asked to leave." James felt a heartening surge of determination. "I'll do it." "Very well." Eldrick's smile was more of a smirk, calculating. "Prepare yourself, human. Tomorrow at dawn, we shall begin." After their meeting, Valentina led him outside, the sun lowering on the horizon. The villagers resumed their activities, unfazed by what had just transpired. "Thank you for backing me up in there," James said, wanting to break the ice. "It seems like they're not entirely convinced about me." "They will be harder to win over than I," Valentina replied, her tone neutral but her expression contemplative. "But I sense there is more to you than simple luck. Do not let them see you falter." "Right," he chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "No pressure then." Valentina shot him a sideways glance, a hint of amusement sparking in her fierce eyes. Just remember, James. To win respect, you must show strength and honor. You may be outmatched in experience, but that doesn't mean you cannot learn. The firelight began to crackle around them, villagers gathering for their evening rituals, music resonating through the clearing. He looked at Valentina, a question forming in his mind. And what about you? What do you seek from all of this? Her expression shifted, the fierce demeanor softening momentarily. To protect my home, even from those who wish to do it harm. James nodded, sensing the weight of her responsibility. He felt an undeniable spark of respect for her as he watched her blend into her surroundings, a fierce guardian of her world. As night approached, he knew that he was on the precipice of a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew, not only about the alien world around him but also about himself. The following dawn broke with a burst of colors, fiery oranges and soft pinks streaking across the sky as the twin suns rose high. James awoke early, his heart pounding with anticipation and nerves. This was it. The rite of understanding was upon him, and he could feel the weight of the Narak people's scrutiny looming over him. After a quick breakfast prepared by Valentina, though he didn't fully understand the alien ingredients, he gathered his thoughts and steeled himself for the challenges ahead. Valentina met him outside the hut, her armor gleaming in the morning light. "Are you ready?" she asked, a hint of something like encouragement flickering in her gaze. "As ready as I'll ever be," James replied, his stomach fluttering with adrenaline. After all, he had no choice but to rise to the occasion. They walked to the center of the village where a crowd had gathered, anticipation gripping the villagers. Eldrick stood before the assembly, his presence commanding as he surveyed his people. "Today, we begin the rite of understanding for this human," he said, the ancient language flowing from him. "He will face our trials, and only through honor and skill can he earn our respect. Let the first challenge begin." James felt his heart race. He stepped into the open space constructed for the first trial, a combat display. He understood the gravity of this game, to showcase his physical abilities against one of Valentina's people, to prove he was not a coward. "Your first opponent will be Tarek," Eldrick announced, his voice reverberating through the crowd. A tall, muscular warrior stepped forward, a smirk of confidence gracing his chiseled features. "Prepare yourself, human," Tarek growled, cracking his knuckles. "I hope you're not too soft." James swallowed hard but stepped forward, adopting a fighting stance he'd learned in self-defense classes. He could tell Tarek was far more experienced, and the crowd knew it too. They roared with anticipation. The two squared off, circling each other. Tarek lunged first, his movement swift and precise. James barely dodged the strike, adrenaline coursing through him. He had to focus, instincts kicked in as he retaliated with a quick jab to Tarek's side. The blow connected, and to his surprise, Tarek staggered slightly. The crowd gasped then cheered. Encouraged, James felt a flicker of confidence ignite within him. But Tarek quickly regained his footing, growing serious. With a fierce snarl, he charged again, his fists blazing with energy. The first punch landed on James' cheek, sending him sprawling to the ground, the taste of blood filling his mouth. "Get up!" Valentina's voice rang out amidst the crowd. Her insistence propelled him forward, he grunted and pushed himself back to his feet. With gritted teeth, James faced Tarek again. This time, he anticipated the next thrust. As Tarek moved, James ducked under his blow and managed to hook his foot around Tarek's leg, sending the warrior crashing to the ground. With an unexpected surge of adrenaline, he threw himself atop Tarek, pinning him down for a fleeting moment. The crowd erupted in cheers, and James allowed himself a brief smile before Tarek used raw power to flip him off and regain dominance. The fight flowed back and forth until James began to tire. Every blow traded felt heavier, and he knew he had to finish this or he'd falter entirely. Then, as if surrendering to intuition, he recalled Valentina's teachings, the balance of strength and honor. Rather than seeking to dominate, he had to find an equilibrium. With a final surge of determination, he feigned a punch, causing Tarek to hedge back. Instead, James pivoted to the side and tripped Tarek, sending him sprawling again. However, this time James didn't follow to ground him. He held back, refusing to deliver a final blow. "I yield," Tarek conceded, breathing heavily, a newfound respect dawning in his eyes. The crowd erupted in approval, and James felt relief wash over him. Eldrick raised his hands to quiet the villagers. "You have shown resilience, James. But the next challenge will not be so easy." James nodded, heart racing. He could feel the weight of their expectations but also the thrill of being accepted. He had proven himself a warrior, though the next trial tested not just his strength, but his mind. "Next, you will face the test of lore," Eldrick declared, leading James and the assembly to a light-filled space adorned with colorful carvings depicting the history and mythology of the Narok people. "You will answer questions of our past, our triumphs, our losses, our traditions. Fail to show respect for our history, and you shall be exiled," Eldrick warned. James steeled himself, his thoughts racing. Valentina quietly offered him advice over their shared meals on various legends. He had paid attention, hoping this would serve him well. Eldrick stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he began quizzing James about various legends, mythology, and lore. At first, questions seemed to flow easily, bolstered by fragments of memory that surfaced from conversations he'd had with Valentina. "Who was Lyria, the Great Protector?" Eldrick queried. James took a deep breath. "Lyria fought against the shadows for your people, embodying hope in the darkest times." James felt the villagers leaned in closer, connecting with the tale. "She taught that courage can transform despair into light." Cheers erupted, and James felt his chest swell with pride. But the questions grew harder, and his confidence wavered as Eldrick pressed him on less familiar stories. A knot of anxiety tightened in his stomach when Eldrick posed a question he couldn't recall. Yes, that is a key part of our foundation," Eldrick challenged. "Your disrespect is intolerable, human." James thought back to Valentina's lessons. "It is my duty to learn, I know I have much to grasp," he pleaded to the elder, hoping to earn back some grace. "Understanding begins with humility," Valentina whispered in the audience, nodding, encouraging him. Eldrick studied him closely, the air thick with tension before finally saying, "Very well. You show a heart to comprehend, but questions remain. Your final trial will test what lies within your spirit, communication and trust." As the day wore on, fatigue settled into James's bones, but invigorated by small victories, he stood determined. This world was fraught with challenges, but earning the respect of the Narok people was well worth the effort. With Valentina's presence at his side and a growing sense of purpose, he prepared himself for whatever lay ahead. The rite of understanding had become more than a mere test, it felt like a quest to not only earn respect but discover the interconnectedness of courage, honor, and alien souls. As the sun reached its zenith, James felt the tension of the gathered villagers crackling in the air around him. The final trial loomed overhead, a test that would not only assess his knowledge and strength, but also the trust he could forge with Valentina and the Narok people. Eldrick stepped forward, his gaze penetrating. "For the final trial, you will undertake the challenge of unity. You will work with Valentina to complete a task that embodies trust and healing. In proving your bond, you will demonstrate your worth to the Narok." Valentina stepped beside him, her presence both comforting and alarming. "What do we need to do?" James asked, hardly able to mask his anxiety. "The task is twofold," Eldrick explained. "First, you must venture into the Forest of Echoes, where you will seek the Heartstone, a gem said to heal both physical and spiritual wounds. Once you possess it, you will return to the village to restore an ancient tree known as the Elder Oak, which has withered and lost its light." James nodded, his pulse quickening. "What else do we need to know about this Heartstone?" "Legends say it is hidden in the depths of the forest, safeguarded by creatures of shadow. You shall face your fears while searching for it. If you are separated, trust in one another, that is the essence of unity." With the challenge laid bare before them, James felt both exhilarated and intimidated. He exchanged a glance with Valentina, who offered a determined nod, her fierce expression conveying her commitment. "Let's do this," James said, needing to believe in their success. As they ventured into the forest of echoes, a wave of vibrant energy surrounded them. Sunlight filtered through the high canopy, sending shimmering rays dancing on the earth below. The forest itself felt alive, filled with whispers and soft laughter that seemed to come from the trees. Valentina remained vigilant, her senses acute as they tread deeper into the woods. James followed closely, intrigued by the array of alien flora that flourished around him. Each plant was a different hue, some pulsating rhythmically, as if sharing a heartbeat with the forest. "So, what exactly are these creatures of shadow?" he asked, breaking the silence. "Phantoms of doubt," Valentina replied, her eyes scanning the area. "They manifest the fears you hold within. Do not underestimate them." James felt a pang of apprehension at her words. He had faced many fears, but confronting them in this form was unsettling. Suddenly, a rustle in the underbrush snapped him back to reality. "Stay sharp," Valentina cautioned, narrowing her eyes. Out of the shadows emerged a creature, sleek and dark, with glistening eyes that reflected the fading light like shards of glass. It lunged toward them with speed, and for a fleeting moment, time seemed to slow. "James, get back!" Valentina shouted, reflexively stepping in front of him. The creature swooped low, attempting to disrupt their resolve. Valentina met it head-on, her movements fluid and powerful as she clashed with the shadowy figure. James watched, awed by her strength, but he couldn't just stand idle. He breathed deeply, pushing away the feelings of doubt. He had to trust Valentina and also trust in himself. Summoning his courage, he grabbed a fallen branch, swinging it toward the creature as it recoiled from Valentina's strike. Together, Valentina shouted, and in synchronized motion, they fought back against the creature. With coordinated strikes, their rhythm fell into place, James swinging the branch while Valentina deftly moved in, landing precise blows. Finally, with one last thrust, they subdued the shadowy being, and as it dissipated into mist, a serene silence enveloped the clearing. Panting, James turned to Valentina. "Did we just fight a fear?" "Yes," she replied, still alert. "And you faced it courageously. But deeper fears await us ahead." They continued through the forest, darker shadows creeping at the edges of their vision. The atmosphere thickened, and whispers echoed around them, muddled and ethereal. "What if we can't find the Heartstone?" James voiced, his anxiety creeping back in. "What if? What if I'm not worthy of this?" Valentina paused, regarding him closely. "Your worth is not defined by this challenge, but by your spirit. Do not allow doubt to conquer you." But as they pressed on, James felt the weight of their task grow heavier. An intense fear gripped him, unwelcome memories from his past surfacing unbidden, failure in past missions, relationships that had faltered under pressure. He felt himself slipping, ready to withdraw into shadows of despair. Suddenly, the whispers intensified, transforming into guttural voices that mocked him. "You're a fool, James. You'll never be strong enough. Look at you, lost and hopeless." James staggered, gritting his teeth against the barrage. "No. Leave me alone." He shouted into the air, desperately trying to banish the suffocating shadows. But Valentina was at his side, her fierce eyes burning with a bright light. "Resist it, James. We fight this together. Remember who you are." Her voice cut through the illusions like a beacon of light, reminding him of the strength he had found through their bond. With a rallying cry, they pressed forward, shaking off the lingering shadows, eventually breaking through a thicket into a shimmering clearing. In the center stood the Heartstone, an enormous, radiant gem pulsating with vibrant energy. Its surface shimmered with a kaleidoscope of colors, reflecting hope and power. "Is that it?" James breathed, captivated. Valentina nodded, her expression a mix of relief and triumph. "We found it. Now, let's take it back to the Elder Oak." But as they approached, the shadows converged once more, morphing into dark forms that swirled around the Heartstone, threatening to swallow it whole. The phantoms danced menacingly, whispering doubts that surged through James's mind once again. "They will not let us pass," Valentina yelled, pushing him to stand firm. "Then we fight for it," James declared, now fully resolute. Side by side, they faced the swirling jitters of doubt, channeling the bond they had cultivated. Valentina's strength matched with James's newfound confidence generated a powerful surge of resistance. They flanked the shadows, striking with coordinated precision. In an explosive confrontation, they summoned their courage, determination blazing brightly. Together, they pushed through the darkness, driving it back until it unraveled into wisps. With one final thrust, James extended his arm toward the Heartstone. It pulsated with warmth, invigorating him, and he felt an incredible connection as he grasped it. As they pulled it free, rays of light burst forth, dispelling the lingering shadows and flooding the clearing with radiant brilliance. Gasping for breath, they shared a moment of triumph. "We did it!" James exclaimed, heart racing. "Yes," Valentina replied, her fierce demeanor softening into a rare smile. "We have proven our bond. Now, we restore the Elder Oak." With the Heartstone cradled securely in their hands, they set their course back to the village, ready to finish what they had started, healing a spirit that needed mending, a community that craved unity, and perhaps leaning into the undeniable bond they had formed along the way. As James and Valentina made their way back through the forest of echoes, the thrill of securing the Heartstone filled their hearts with hope. The light from the gem pulsed in rhythm with their combined energy, casting brilliant patterns on the forest floor. "Once we reach the Elder Oak, the Heartstone will restore its vitality," Valentina said, her fierce determination resonating in her voice. "But we must be quick, time is of the essence." With urgency, they broke free from the forest and returned to the village. The villagers awaited them, their expressions a mixture of anticipation and curiosity. Eldrick stood at the forefront, eyes fixed on the glowing Heartstone cradled between James and Valentina. "You have returned, then," Eldrick proclaimed, his demeanor steady but a hint of curiosity flickered in his gaze. "Have you succeeded?" James stepped forward, feeling an exhilarating rush of confidence. "We found the Heartstone and a powerful connection we didn't expect. It was a challenge, but together." "Cut to the vision," Eldrick commanded, eyeing the gem. Valentina moved swiftly, leading James toward the withered elder oak standing just beyond the village square, a symbol of strength that had once given life and wisdom to her people. The tree was gnarled and drooping, limbs bare as if drained of essence. "Place the Heartstone in the heart of the tree," Valentina instructed, a mixture of reverence and urgency in her voice. James approached hesitantly, heart pounding. "What will happen?" "It will breathe life back into the elder oak. The stone carries the energy of our essence, and it will harmonize with the tree's spirit," Valentina assured him, her eyes reflecting deep faith. He took a deep breath and placed the Heartstone into a hollow at the base of the tree. At first, nothing happened. Hesitation fluttered in his chest as he stepped back, fear creeping in that they had failed. Then, as they all stood in silence, a pulse radiated from the tree, echoing through the ground beneath them. The elder oak shuddered and trembled, and with each passing second, a wave of vibrant green light burst forth from the Heartstone, enveloping the tree like an embrace. New leaves sprouted from its branches, bursting into lively shades of green, flowers blooming in a cascade of hues. Gasps rippled through the villagers. Eldrick stepped forward, disbelief etching his face. "Incredible! You've done it!" Laughter and cheers erupted from the crowd as life returned, an opera of nature brought back to harmony. James turned to Valentina, his heart swelling with pride and admiration. But amid the celebration, Eldrick stepped forward and raised a hand, silencing the crowd. "James," he called, his voice resonating with authority. "You came here as a stranger, and you have fought and sacrificed to prove your worth. Each of us carries scars of our battles, and you have shown great resilience. But I ask you now, will you remain with us?" Surprised by the weight of the elder's words, James felt a rush of emotions. He could see the bond he had formed with Valentina and the respect he had gained from the Narok people, but the reality of what he had left behind tugged at him. I don't know if I can," he began, hesitation creeping in. My life is far from simple. I have other responsibilities. But what do you seek? Valentina interjected, her green eyes searching his. Is it your world, plagued with doubt, or this one that has shown you honor? James took a moment, weighing her words, and the faces of the villagers ignited a spark within him. It was more than just a simple choice, it was a journey he had only begun to explore. I seek purpose, he finally declared, his voice steady. I wish to learn, to grow stronger. I will remain for now, to understand your ways and to protect this place until I am ready to decide what my true path is. A murmur of approval swept through the villagers as Eldrick nodded, a smile breaking through his stern demeanor. Then welcome, James. You are now part of our tribe. James felt a warmth within, knowing he had forged a bond that would shape his journey. The weight of loneliness lifted as acceptance surrounded him, and he turned to Valentina, a smile tugging at his lips. In the days that followed, James immersed himself in the customs, language, and stories of the Narok people. Valentina became his closest ally, guiding him through each trial and celebration, her fierce spirit igniting a spark of courage within him. Their bond deepened, through laughter, shared stories, and the thrill of conquering challenges together. Each moment filled with purpose pulled him from the shadows of uncertainty, and he realized that in his exploration of this alien world, he had found a home that resonated within him. As twilight descended over Narok, painting the skies with ethereal colors, James and Valentina stood before the elder oak, which now flourished with life. Thank you for believing in me, he whispered, grateful for her presence. Together, we are strong, she replied, her fierce smile lighting the night. And in that moment, under the shimmering stars, James understood the essence of the bond he had formed, not only with Valentina, but with a people and a world that had welcomed him with open arms and fierce hearts.